A very good morning to you. Welcome to Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. Well, do you know that we are spread out throughout the country and you can find us through various frequencies? If you're in Nairobi, our frequency is 103.9 FM, Nyeri 87.9 FM, Mombasa 97.9 FM, Nakuru 102.1 FM, Meru 107.7 FM, and Kisumu 96.5 FM. Now, perhaps you're wondering, I am not in any of these towns or its environs. Do not worry, because you can download the Family Media app for free, both on Play Store and Apple Store, and you're able to access all of our programs wherever you are. Now, do you perhaps find yourself in this situation that Kenyans have described as you have a long month at the end of your money? Well, do you have a healthy relationship with your finances? Today's conversation is about ordering your finances, and our guest is just the right person to help us have this conversation. He's the former CEO for CBA Bank before the merger now into NCBA. He sits on various boards. He's been in the banking industry for over 30 years. Yes, we need to learn something about finances today. And so joining me is Mr. Jeremy Ngunze. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Pastor.
What a privilege to have a sit down with you and have this conversation with you.
It's a real pleasure. It's wonderful to be with you here today.
Yeah. So kindly just, I know I've mentioned just a bit about you, but what better privilege to hear from you. Kindly just help us appreciate who you are.
Thank you. My name is Jeremy Ngunze. As I said, I have been in this industry, banking industry, for quite a while, as you said, 30 years. Today, I have transitioned from banking into a number of boards. I like to call it sort of my non-profit and for-profit boards. So I give of my time to certain organizations, as well as then give of my time and experience to what I call the for-profit organizations. I am currently chairman of an NGO that is based in Washington, D.C., known as PACT, which I give of my time. I also sit on a number of committees at my club, current club, give of my time.
This is Current Country Club?
Current Country Club, okay. Yes. I'm in the Balancing Committee as well as the Ethics Committee. I'm also involved in, when you're a banker, you tend to be thrown into things like that. So I currently also are treasurer for my residents association
okay.
in the estate.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
On top of that, then now on the sort of for-profit side, I sit on the board of DTB. I also sit on the board of investment company Old Mutual Investment Group in Nairobi. I also sit on the general insurance business for Old Mutual in Uganda. Okay. And then for my various interventions in the banking industry, I've also involved as a chairman of what you might know as a PesaLink. Yes. PesaLink, which is the instant payment switch for the banking industry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wow, that's quite some CV. Thank you for just giving us of your time. I know your time is quite precious, so thank you for giving us of your time and some of your experience, even as we have this conversation. Now, the thing about money and finances, it's one of those difficult conversations. Either we assume we know everything about it, or we're on this other side feeling, now what will this knowledge help me? I have no finances to earn, I have no finances to manage. But let me just begin by a simple flat-out question. Do you have a healthy relationship with your finances?
Pastor, that's a good question. I want to believe I do.
Yeah.
I have, I think over time, through making mistakes, because you do make mistakes, gotten into what I believe now is a good, healthy habit in terms of managing my own finances.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. So let's talk then about managing your finances, or as we are calling it today, ordering
Yes.
your finances. What, by way of just introduction, what are the things, the tools that you have found useful in how we ought to manage our finances?
Thank you. I think one of the things I've found useful, and it starts with simple thing, budgeting.
Aha.
Because you can't spend what you don't have.
Yes.
All right?
Well, we do.
We do.
With the various loan apps.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I guess the basic
Yes.
premise is starting with that. It's also important to then also know the differentiation between what you need and what you want.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
What are your needs?
So a need, we could confuse a want for a need.
Yes.
Okay.
It's quite often people.
Yeah.
So I'd define a need as what are the things I need to take care of. I have utilities to pay. I have school fees to pay. I have rent to pay.
Yeah.
To pay for. Those are needs.
Yes.
Because they're part and parcel of what you must always in your budget
Yeah.
sort of provide for. Then there are those you call wants.
Yeah.
Maybe I need a new shirt. I need to go to that new restaurant.
Yeah.
Those are wants. But those wants will need to be prioritized on the basis of having satisfied your needs.
Your needs first, yeah.
So ordering finances is really about
that differentiation. Now, that's interesting, and I know we'll talk about other tools, but just if we pause there on the needs and the wants. But do we not sometimes, even with a need, we confuse it with a want in this way? So rent is a need.
Yes.
But the type of housing could be a want.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, food is a need, but
Yes.
the type of food can be a want.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I guess you've got to start prioritizing.
Yes.
If I may call it that way.
Yeah.
Because I may want to live in the leafy sides of Riverside.
Yeah.
But I can't afford it.
Yeah.
All right? If the reality of my income is such that I might need to live slightly out of town in order to afford to service my rent, plus the other needs that I have.
Yeah.
I might have children in school. I need to pay fees for them. Fortunately, God has been kind to me. I've now almost finished that journey. But that is something you have to prioritize.
Yeah.
Because what legacy do you leave your children if you don't ensure that they're in a reasonable school?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what then are the other tools? You've talked about budgeting. You've talked about this differentiation between needs and wants.
The other thing, I once got a very interesting quote around, going back to budgeting.
Yeah.
And they talked. The author of the quote said, budgeting is figuring out where your money goes, as opposed to where it went. Wondering where it went.
Please repeat that again. That's a good one.
You have to be able to determine where your money goes, as opposed to wondering
where your money went.
Where your money went.
Well, to be honest, most of the times I am on the latter. I am wondering. I think this conversation is for me. I am wondering, where did my money go?
Exactly. So, in a lot of times, you find your money, if you don't order yourself, your money goes to things that perhaps might not be value adding. And that's why just having that consciousness to, keep reminding yourself, where is my money going?
Yeah.
As opposed to wondering where it went. It all goes back to your needs and wants.
Yeah.
And defining them. The other thing I found in my life was habits. Because habits feed some of your needs and wants.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay?
So you can have expensive habits.
Absolutely. When I left university, I could have decided to, because I joined, quickly after that I joined a bank. I could have taken a car loan, from the bank that I started working with.
Yeah.
But my priority was different. I needed a roof over my head.
Aha.
So I used to jive,
Yeah.
I javed for actually I javed for like 7 years.
For those that don't understand what javing is, that is taking a matatu.
Yes. Yes, I took a matatu for 7 years.
Wow.
Of my banking life. Because I wanted to ensure I had a roof over my head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ah.
And that's my choice.
So others made a choice to,
absolutely.
to take a car loan.
I had friends who, for them, having a car was the priority. And, you know, every man has his own priorities. For me, having a head over my...
A roof over your head.
A roof over my head was...
oh, and did you actually get that roof over your head?
Yes. It was not easy.
Yeah.
Because even to do that, there are a lot of priorities I had to cut off now. I could not join my friends in their merrymaking.
Yeah.
Because my loan was taking quite a significant part of my income.
Yeah.
And therefore I had to reorganize my life.
Yeah.
My wife was very practical also, so, you know, having somebody also who works along with you was very important.
So even spouses here important.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, I would never have done it without Mudeu and helping me sort of take a reality check on what we needed to do. So we organized ourselves and said, look, we have a son coming. We need to ensure that we organize ourselves.
Yeah.
So we cut out a lot of unnecessary spend. I even rented out my servant's quarter to
add to your income.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because fact of the matter is what we needed to run our house was not adequate, and one then is required to sort of balance those things. Yeah, but God was great. And, with time, I was able to now comfortably, on the basis of my income, step into the ability to now, you know, now buy a car and do all those things.
Yeah.
So habits are very important. I could have decided to do it the other way.
Yeah.
Get a flashy car. But the problem with having a car immediately is, you know, if you buy a car worth, call it 2 million shillings, and assume you brought it in, if you think about it, the amount of tax on VAT and excise, import duty, sorry, on a vehicle, the minute it hits the ground, it's already depreciated because the value of that car is exaggerated by the tax.
Yeah.
On top of that, the minute that car, you buy that car, you have to put insurance.
Yes.
Which is what, 5% of the value of the car, 6%, depending on the insurance company.
Yeah.
Suddenly, that car also requires tires every so often.
Oh.
If you're going to own a car, you've got to make sure that it is serviced. The best advice is they tell you, if you want to maintain a car well, 5,000 kilometers, you must take it for service. Yeah. It's a guzzler. It's taking money.
It's true. So just taking and taking.
Absolutely. So if you decide to start a job and the first thing you do is run to take a car without thinking that this is going to be taking as opposed to giving, fine, it is helping you get where you're going, but it's also taking from you. Do you have the latitude to spend on that? So, habits. Habits.
And is it sometimes, I like that, habits, I think sometimes are associated with comparison. Because the only reason sometimes why I would want a car, and then sometimes it moves to a certain kind of car.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because to be honest, I know your car right now, and I would desire to drive that kind of a car. I mean, you are in current country club. I would desire to be a member.
Absolutely.
But my life situation currently doesn't allow me to do that. And so is it that we fall into that trap of looking at others and desiring to have what they have, not realizing that our situation is different?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I mean, if I had decided to take certain decisions in my life on the basis of what others were doing, then perhaps my story would be different. And so we decided as a family to take our decisions on finances step by step. And by the way, you can't do it alone. If your spouse is not in sync with what you want to achieve in terms of your future plans, then there's dissonance.
Yeah, there's tension.
There's tension. You've got to align. You've got to align, because only that way would you be able to achieve what you want to achieve in life.
And so that means then even so habits are also closely associated with marriage partners.
Absolutely. So wisdom in choosing.
So as you're relating, you're trying to figure.
So today, for those who are not married, I think you need to start checking. Is this the person who would walk alongside with me through the ups and downs? Because there are times when you absolutely have no money, and you need to be honest and say, look, I'm sorry, but I don't have the money to do this or that.
We can't do that.
We can't do that. We can't afford it. But if you don't have that conversation,
it becomes a challenge.
Absolutely.
But the other kind of habit I've seen is pleasure. You know, in whatever, whether we're talking about drinking, partying, whatever pleasure one indulges in, just make a mention about, you know, pleasure habits and their ability to drain our finances.
Oh, I mean, those are perhaps some of the worst habits that, because think about it today. What are those pleasure habits? Going out to have, you know, it might not even be excessive. It's wanting to be in the, you know, a restaurant every so often. When you stop and think about it, you could have the same or even better wholesome meal at home.
That's true.
And allow yourself ability to afford something else you want to do. Maybe you wanted to invest in a plot. Or maybe you wanted to invest in shares. Or you want to put that extra money into your money market fund that will begin to build a fund for you because you want to take a child to university or you want to do something. So it's about that clarity in terms of deciding, do I want to be, we used to say this when I was younger, we used to say, do I want to be in a place where people ask who's that, and or do I want to be with people who want to be where who's who? So if you are sucked up into the who's who,
so you become who's that.
Well, I don't mind being who's that, because I know what I want to achieve in my life. I don't want to be a who's who.
So you'd rather be who's that?
Yes. Why do I want to be seen in the latest restaurant, or the latest club, or the latest? To what end? How does it build your life? Fine, it's good to have fun. But to what end? So sometimes in life, again, I'm not saying you know, sort of deny yourself certain things that you want to enjoy, but with balance. With balance, knowing what you have a plan in all those things. Even going on holiday, there's nothing wrong with going on holiday. But can you afford going on holiday every time the children are on holiday? Can you?
3 times a year.
3 times a year. The reality is perhaps not. Because soon after, you'll need to pay fees for the next term. So if I wanted to take my family somewhere, can I put money aside and say, end of year, probably I could be able to afford something, and start putting funds aside. So there's a place for even having fun, but in a structured manner. If you look at a lot of the Europeans and Americans travel all over Africa,
that's true,
all over the world. A lot of people is not because they have excessive cash. No, they plan.
Sometimes for many years.
Absolutely, for many years. For many years. So you can actually achieve those things, but with a plan. With a plan. Finances. It's about saying, these are the things I want to achieve. I can set up short-term goals, medium-term and long-term goals.
Welcome back. This is Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. And today, the conversation is about finances. You got that right. We're talking about ordering your finances. And the question we're asking is, do you have a healthy relationship with your finances? Please let us know. 20316 is our SMS line. 0786 316 316 is our WhatsApp line. Now, let's just get right into this conversation. Welcome back, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you.
Just before we, listen to that song and put a pause on the conversation that we were having, you'd already taken us to another dimension of goals. Setting short-term goals, medium-term goals, and are you talking about goals just about even finances?
Absolutely, Pastor.
Yeah.
Okay, it is. Because whether you like it or not, everything you do needs to have a plan.
That's true.
And so even your finances require
a plan.
A plan on those goals. So if I was to look at some of your short-term goals, what are the things in the next sort of 6 to 12 months you need to pay for? Typically, you need to plan for them because your money is finite.
Yeah.
Like all of us. I mean, unless you have tons of money and you have some inheritance, you've got to live within what you earn.
Yeah.
Now, your income could come from various sources. So some people are in business. Some people, of course, earn from a salary. There are those who then have extra income, be it your investment income, because you could do that. You could get income from that.
Yeah.
You can also get income from capital gains. If you already had a plot 50 by 100 somewhere, and you bought it 10 years ago, today it's worth double, and you have a need that requires to be met, you could take advantage of your capital gains, and that becomes a source of income.
Yeah.
But back to the short-term goals. Your short-term goals are things that perhaps you need to resolve. So other than your typical sort of day-to-day utilities, rental and all that, Wi-Fi is like oxygen. So those are things.
It has become a need.
It's become an absolute need.
Yes.
When we are talking the children at Ropes, the rites of passage, and when we talk to them about things like Wi-Fi, they
they classify it
that as oxygen.
Yes.
Anyway, but just coming back to the goals, insurance. Even for a car, if you have a car, ability to pay for your insurance one-off, in one go, sometimes is a challenge. So you've got to have a plan for that.
Yeah.
If you don't have an employer who pays your insurance, you also need to perhaps set aside some money for your life insurance and life insurance for your children or your spouse. Medical, if you're not covered medical, you need to put aside money to have some sort of insurance.
Yeah.
So those are what I'd sort of call some of your short-term goals. In all the things you need to do, you need to make sure you are creating capacity to cover some of those things.
Yeah.
You have some medium-term goals. Maybe your child is now transitioning from primary school to secondary. Typically what tends to happen, the fees
tend to go up.
Do you have a plan for that? Because you know it's going to come. It's like the train is coming and you have no plan.
Yeah.
How do you begin to ask yourself, how do I plan for that? When your child goes to university, again, okay? And it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
If you have sons like me, I have 3 sons.
Yes.
There's a day they're going to come and say,
with a lady.
Exactly. Yeah. And guess who has to? So you also have to start thinking about those.
Wait.
So life.
Now you know what ends up happening is parents end up quarreling with their children. Huyo msichana hata si mzuri.
So after university, I have three sons.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, I'm sure they'll come and say, "Look, Dad, I found somebody.
Yeah.
And we need to pay the dowry." Those are long-term plans. You need to plan for that.
That's true.
Because whether you like it or not,
that is bound to come.
That is bound to happen. They may want to go into do masters.
Yeah. You have to plan for that.
You have to plan for that.
You know, it's interesting because sometimes what happens is, as a father, and I can imagine this, if I sense that is coming, so that I don't feel bad about myself.
You can't.
I can't. I'm like, oh, msichana. Si mzuri.
No, I think we need to support.
Yeah.
So, you know, life is about, can you divorce yourself from the finances? Absolutely not. The key thing is planning.
Yeah. Wow, okay. Now, we talked about budgeting. Would you say budgeting is a planning tool? A budget. Would you argue that a budget is a planning tool?
I'd actually say budget. In fact, the easier way to look at it, Pastor, is as a plan. Because sometimes when you make it, it sounds very...
Oh, when you talk about tools.
Yeah. It's almost like something you pick up there. It's a plan. I think it's simply called, it is a plan.
It is a plan, okay.
It's a plan.
Yeah. Okay.
Again, it's a plan of what I want to achieve. Today, short term, medium term, long term.
Yeah, long term.
If you look at it that way, so budget is a plan. It's also a prioritization. Because there are things you'll decide, okay, is this urgent?
Yeah.
Or can it wait?
Okay.
So prioritization. So budgeting is really about planning, prioritizing, and then executing.
Okay. Now, let's then touch a bit on the budget. So now I'm listening to this, and I'm like, well, me, I've just been living life. Like you said, budgeting helps you to... what was that statement you said, that quote that you made?
Planning is
planning,
about...
yes.
Budgeting is about knowing where your money went.
Yes.
As opposed to wondering where.
As opposed to wondering where your money went.
Yeah.
So maybe, you know, I've been in that space for wondering where my money went. But now I want to determine where my money goes. So where do I start with this budget now?
I see where you are going. It starts with then set up a budget. A budget is, what are the things that I need to pay for? This month, in 3 months, in 6 months. Because those are the things you require.
Yeah.
So that's the spend, the required spend.
Yes.
But that required spend has to fit into
the income.
The income.
Okay.
So the income is up here. Then the things that you need to
spend.
Because you can't spend what you don't
have. Yeah.
How do you then prioritize? Because and without putting it down and actually saying, what are the things that I spend on for food? Is that discipline? Is that the habit of just saying, how much do we pay for food? How much do we pay for electricity, for water, for Wi-Fi? Put it all down and start with that. Because budgeting really is about that. So sit down, have a look at it, and then ask yourselves, how do I then, am I able to do... In fact, in budgeting, there are various books. There are a lot of, if you go to YouTube, you go buy books, they'll tell you a lot of things about how to organize your budget. There's sort of some rules of thumb. Your priorities should cover something like 50%.
50%?
About 50% of your income.
So these are the things that I spend my money on.
You need food. You need to pay fees. You need to pay for your utilities, your Wi-Fi and all that, your fuel, if you have a car. Because that car won't move unless you... Okay?
All that will come to about 50%.
The rule of thumb. There are people, then they say 30% should go towards protecting your future, in other words, your savings and investments. Because you remember we talked about short-term, mid-term, long-term.
Long-term, yes.
If you don't start putting some money aside for those long-term events, how will you achieve them? And then perhaps the 20% is then that allows some of your wants. You may need to upgrade your shirt. You know, that restaurant you wanted to go to that you can only afford once a month. Perhaps that's where that fits in there. So they sort of say 50, 30, 20.
50, 30, 20.
As a general rule.
General rule.
General rule.
Hey, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I guess some of us, and I know I'm speaking for many, tuko pabaya. Yeah.
And it's something you just need to build into your planning. I remember working in Zambia, and one of the things that sort of helped me in my late 30s, also get better clarity around perhaps the long-term goals, was when a colleague of mine retired. And at that time, the bank used to cater for everything. He had a house paid for by the bank. He had his car.
Sorted by the bank.
Everything. That guy left. And the one thing that struck me, and he had loans, was that his pension went in to pay off his loans. And that horrified me. Horrified me to the point that I said I need to start organizing myself so that I know I will retire. And you know, when you're young, you don't think retirement is coming. But it comes sooner than later. 20 years go like that. When you're 30-something.
That's true. 30
years goes like that. Do you have a plan? Because whether you like it or not, we're living longer and longer. The generation of our parents, perhaps immediately, because they used to retire at 55, a lot of them did not go beyond 65, 70. A lot of people who are now retiring retire at 60, and then we will tend to live to about 80. How will you manage your...
within that time period.
Within that time period. So you've got to start thinking about that. It's never too early to start thinking about those things. Fortunately for me, that planning thought came when I saw that. For me, that was the sort of the point that I stepped back and asked myself, wow, when I retire, will I be able to... And remember, with time, what happens is your needs, because you're at a certain place in life, your expectations in terms of, your conveniences also.
That's
are you going to be able to afford that life, or are you going to leave employment and then start going back? Exactly. So those are other things you need to think about. So fortunately I had an employer, who encouraged us. They used to, at that point, when I was at CBA, they were paying 12.5% of your income.
Wow. That's pension.
That's the employer portion. And then you had a choice. The minimum, I think, was 7. No, 5. Minimum was 5, but we had option. So I decided to bump up my pension. Because whether you like it or not, I actually started with somebody and who we worked backwards and said, if you are to retire today, what level of income do you require to be comfortable? I'm not saying about, there's no way I'm going to earn what I used to earn, but I want to be able to be comfortable. And when you start working backwards, it forces you to think. So I'd encourage people, what does your employer today put aside for you for pension? Is there a possibility that even if you don't have discipline in terms of putting money aside from your income into savings, because you will likely create some friction. What do you create friction? Ask your employer to take a lot more. Put it aside, because then what you've done is you created friction. You will not go and take that money.
You can't touch it, it's gone.
That when you retire, you have something that you can then either take that, invest it to give you an annuity, or again, the choice for you at that time is what you want to do with that money. But you have the ability to do that.
But now somebody listening to this, is thinking, hey, okay, I hear you, but isn't that perhaps for people who are in employment and at a certain level of income? Because somebody may be thinking, I'm just at entry level, you know. If it's a professional, I'm earning 30K or thereabout. Somebody's thinking, you know, mine is just, I just, you know, make do with life. My income is 20K or even 10K. So just different people. Or it could be somebody, say, who, you know, is a domestic worker. You know, they are a house manager somewhere, and you know, unfortunately, we don't pay them well, which is unfortunate. That's conversation true. For another day. And they're thinking, I'm only paid 6K. So how does this fit? How does this fit? How does this conversation help me as well? Yeah.
Valid question. I mean, I think one has to then sort of decide how to make things work in between the reality you face. But I go back to the habit.
Yeah.
Given what you have, am I able to put something aside? It might be a savings account.
Yeah.
Okay. It might be a money market fund. Even for people who are in SME, who might not have an employer who has a structured pension. Today, the beauty is you have individual pension plans. There are a lot of organizations that are offering, or rather organizing pension plans for individuals. There are companies that have actually come together and created what they call umbrella pension funds for people in certain industries.
Yeah.
So you can actually plug into those opportunities that are there.
Yeah.
Even somebody who is you know, working as what we call a domestic technician.
Yes. Yes.
There's a plan. There's a way you can actually. I mean, you have chamas.
That's true.
Come together with people and able to put aside some money. Just the question for me, the answer for me is, I think, the habit.
Yeah.
Are you putting aside some money? There's products in the market that allow you to do some sort of savings.
Yeah.
You know, you know, even from the mobile providers. M-Pesa have M-Shwari with the NCBA. KCB also have something similar.
Yeah.
So there are tools you can actually utilize to just help you create that friction, I call, and discipline around putting money aside. And you know, one has to be honest that sometimes the money you have is not enough to do all the things you want to do.
Yeah.
When I started my job, I only earned 5,000 shillings. And that 5,000 shillings, I need to figure out how it will.
Yeah, to pay rent.
Pay rent.
Yeah. To eat.
Travel, to work, because I have to be at work every day.
Yeah.
But I needed to manage all that.
Yeah.
Plus take a loan.
For the house. In fact, when we come back, because I want us to listen to another song, I want to know whether you actually got that house, you know, early on, and of course, I know the situation has changed now, but we'd love to hear from you. Welcome back. This is Motivation Monday, where we bring you challenging conversations and inspiring stories. And today's conversation is a challenging one. We are talking about ordering your finances. Well, my name is Elijah Mokaya, and I am joined with Mr. Jeremy Ngunze, one who has been in the banking industry for more than 30 years, who has lived out some of these things that we are talking about. And I think it will be good if we all learned. I am learning. I don't know if you're learning. 20316 is our SMS line. 0786316 is our WhatsApp line. Let us know, what are you learning? And in what ways is this conversation going to transform, especially your habits, as we have been taught. But also, as we have talked about a budget being a plan, we pray and hope that you'll consider making us part of your plan. And so this is an encouragement that you consider partnering with us by way of prayer and financial giving, because we are able to continue doing this by virtue of partnership with men and women like yourself. And so if you desire to be one of our partners, kindly send an SMS with the word partner to 20316 and somebody will get back to you. In the event that you have something that you can give, feel free to do that through the paybill number 316 and for account, kindly write your phone number. For now, let's get back to this conversation so that we may order our finances right. Welcome back, Mr. Jeremy.
Thank you, Pastor.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, even the last question that we were looking at in terms of different levels of income. In fact, I wish I had learned this lesson just in my earlier years of employment. I'm a realtor by profession, so studied real estate, got into the real estate field. I was a property manager. And I was earning a decent amount of money, to be honest, way ahead of what my peers were earning at the time. But I had, what is it called? A taste for good taste for good food. Yeah. It is not even many things.
Good food.
Good food. And
Absolutely.
So constantly, once in a while, maybe once a week, or sometimes more than once a week, I will get into a restaurant. It's not even a high-end restaurant, but get into a restaurant, have lunch. Small things like those. And every month, I was constantly waiting for the salary because I had nothing. Nothing saved, nothing to spare. Always living from salary to salary. And I think the thing is, when we imagine even about our amounts, could it be that sometimes we are thinking, one day when I get a lump sum, when I can put away this huge amount, could that sometimes perhaps be the hindrance to us even putting aside money with that long-term kind of vision?
Absolutely. And I think that's back to the thing we were talking about earlier, habits.
Yeah.
In fact, if I just went into that example, if you knew at that time and you stepped back and calculated how much it cost you to go to that restaurant every week or every day, how much had you put away at the end of the month?
It would have, in fact, let me tell you, I was with a colleague of mine who took up a policy with one of the insurance companies. He was paying 5,000 shillings a month. That was to mature, I guess, in 10 years or 15 years.
Absolutely.
I think it's matured now.
Yes. And he must have got a lump sum.
He must have gotten quite some. And I was able then. I would have been able to put aside that money, but unfortunately, I ate.
Well, it's never too late. It's never too late. Again, it's about realizing and then beginning to adjust and then planning for it. Yes.
Yeah. But now, because again, we get caught up in that desiring to, when I have the lump sum. You began, by telling us a story about how you decided a roof over my head is more important than a car. I believe you got that house because you're talking about the initial years of your employment. We're not talking about now necessarily.
No. It was actually 2 years after getting employed.
Yes. You were able to get that house.
I was able to get that house. Fortunately, my employer provided for a loan. Okay? But you'll be very surprised that even the 10%, because the requirement was I needed to get 10%, or rather provide 10% of the amount. I had a small amount of money which I had put aside, but it was not enough. So I went to my father.
Okay.
And I negotiated with him.
Yeah.
And he gave me a part of his pension, which became part of my 10%. Then I was then able to pay him back immediately after taking the loan. Because the value of the house was actually much more, so I could. Fortunately, I was fortunate also. I met somebody who was willing to sell a house at a reasonable price.
Yeah.
So I was in a sense, God worked, in mysterious ways, and He allowed us to meet this gentleman who agreed to sell the house to us, and that was a blessing. But whether you like it or not, for me, even taking that loan required I reorganize my finances.
Yeah.
To the point that I needed to watch what I was spending on certain habits like having lunch and all that. Up to the time I left formal employment, you'll be very surprised. I still used to carry lunch.
You used to carry lunch?
Yes.
Even
Every
when
so
you were
often.
CEO of
Yeah, absolutely.
CBA Bank?
Yes, yes. Every morning I would put aside my, because we had also provided, fortunately my employer was also very forward-looking. We had provided for microwaves and small kitchenettes in every floor of the organization. So I used to carry lunch every so often.
The junior employees were not surprised. What kind of a CEO is this? You know, that is, you know, they're just hearing the microwave ringing.
Well, I guess there are two aspects to that.
Yeah.
One was, I think, a habit I'd already built, number one. But two, sometimes for me, time was also a challenge. So going out for lunch requires an hour.
Yeah.
I'll take my lunch in 10 minutes, read something, then get back in to work. Because the job was such that. So I guess for me it worked. It worked in that
So you saved both. And at this time, to be honest, I don't think the focus was more on saving the little lunch money, but also time.
Practicality.
Yeah.
Practicality.
Okay.
But the habit had already been built.
Yeah, but it's still a lesson for us, because if a whole CEO, and it's not of a, you know, I could open like a small company of myself and say, you know, I'm the CEO of this company, Mokaya and Sons Advocate or whatever. But this is a CEO of a reputable institution. I mean, this is CBA Bank we're talking about. And if you can take lunch from home, how about some of us? I think that is a lesson. And of course, for you it was practicality, but for some of us, even in terms of ordering our finances, it is a lesson to learn.
Something, Mokaya, last night, there's some food that remained from yesterday.
Yes.
Could you have packed it? Instead of going to that restaurant?
Yeah. That's something to think about.
There's something to think about. It's not something you do every day. But for as long as there's food that you can carry, take it.
That's true.
It helps somewhere else.
Yeah, that's true. But now I believe your life is not where it was then.
No,
you're no longer, you know, driving. I mean, things have changed now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you argue and say now you are living a relatively comfortable life?
God has been kind. And I think some of the disciplines as a family we took in the early years have helped plan for this. But remember, I told you about my realization that I will retire at a point.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure. So whenever I got a plot somewhere, I'd put aside. I'd do this. You know, there are things, I started planning sort of my investments so that then in my retirement, I am able to live comfortably without having to worry about what I will eat tomorrow. I also wanted to make sure I was, it's strange for a banker, but to make sure that I was free of debt. Because whether you like it or not, debt is useful. It's useful to leverage. Because I wouldn't have been able to buy a house hadn't I taken a loan. But the level of debt also is important when you're getting yourself into a leverage situation. One has to then balance those things.
Let's just mention on debt a bit, because I mean, I'm interacting with a lot of friends and they are steep in debt. And we're not talking about that they're in debt, they're paying a mortgage. No, it's, you know, took a loan, I don't know, to do what, you know, these logbook loans and just these constant loans. There are various loan apps that are coming up, and it seems like people are just steeped in debt. A mention of that, you said there's a side of it that is good in terms of leveraging, but a majority of us are not on the leveraging part. We're just, I want to go out for lunch with my friends, I don't have money, you know, a quick Fuliza or whatever. Yeah, just a mention of that.
Again, back to habits and discipline. Keep going back to discipline.
Keep going to there. Habits and discipline, yes.
Even in companies, and I'm going back to, I'm sort of relating borrowing to a company. What is the point of taking a loan for consumption? And for consumption, I'll say to go on holiday.
Okay.
To buy a meal. might be desperate, and that might be a short term. You might be a short term. And sometimes reality is you could be in a place where you have no choice but to borrow because you need to feed those children in the house or something.
Yeah.
That is understood. But if it becomes the norm,
yes,
then you're living beyond your means. How do you organize yourself to make sure that debt is used to benefit you in the future? So can I take a loan perhaps to buy a plot that I can gain from capital gains in 5-10 years, as opposed to taking a loan to go to the latest restaurant?
That's true.
The extreme side of things.
Yeah.
So it's that balance in life that one needs to be careful. And a lot of us, a lot of young people get caught up in the consumption spend on debt, which doesn't add value to their lives. And you need to then be back to what is my spend, what are my needs, what are my wants.
Yeah.
Focus on the needs first.
The wants will come later. One of the wants I know you have right now, I have the privilege of knowing you, and I thank God for that, is I know the kind of car that you drive.
Yes.
Because I know a bit of the story behind it. Just help us appreciate. It is a want for you, but even how you came to obtain it is a story that we need to learn, the rest of us. Lest I see you on the road and I'm like, hawa ni wale wanatuibianga pesa.
It's an interesting story. As I was coming to retire, I wanted to give myself najua ni kujirudishia asante.
Yes.
And I was fortunate because of having invested previously. I was able to sell a plot that allowed me to buy the car that you see. And it was a way of saying, and I worked for over 30 years.
Yes.
I needed something.
Kuambia mwili pole, as we call it.
Kupatia mwili pole. But with something that I had put aside. And this is a property that I had probably invested 20 years before, and it just sat there.
Yeah.
Fortunately, at the time, I then wanted to, upgrade to this car, because also it's a car that I think I can drive for the next 10, 15 years, God willing.
Yeah.
I decided, let me now use my small investment, take advantage of the capital gains and buy that car. Yes. So this, I denied myself to buy that plot because the plot was available at the time, and I put it aside.
Yeah.
And then God was really kind to us in that way and blessed us.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe as we gear towards a conclusion of our conversation today, first mention something about giving, and then anything else that you would want us to know about ordering our finances.
Let me tell you something, Pastor. There's one thing that I have never sort of taken for granted, and that is blessings come from God.
Yeah.
And the one thing I do consistently, because all these blessings come from God, is I have made sure that I do tithe monthly.
Wow. Every month?
Every month.
Wow.
Even after retiring.
Yeah.
I make sure I tithe.
Faithfully, because blessings come from God. So all this conversation you're talking about, you can budget.
Go to the Malachi story.
You can. Okay. Yes. Okay. Anything else by way of a parting shot that you would like us to learn?
I think plan, and live within your budget.
Yeah.
It's tough, but prioritize.
Yeah.
Life is about managing your needs and wants, and just making sure that you're able to manage your finances again, using God's wisdom. There are a lot of Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, books of the Bible that actually guide you in terms of how to manage your life in a God given way. Plan.
Plan.
Yeah.
And habits, like you told us.
Yes.
I think what I'm coming away from this conversation is I need to check my habits. I think so. Thank you. Thank you so much,
Wonderful.
Mr. Jeremy.
It's a pleasure.
What a conversation this has been. Thank you so much. I pray and hope that somebody actually will today make a decision that will change. 30 years from today, they will look back and say, I thank God
that is our
that I made those choices.
If we can make a small difference for somebody's life, it will be a real pleasure.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And may the Lord bless you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, we have come to the end of our conversation for today. Ordering your finances has been our conversation with Mr. Jeremy Ngunze. Wow. And this is just the right person. Not only has he spent much time in the banking sector, rising through all the various levels, but also he has applied these things in his life. He's a living proof that these things actually work. And so it is our prayer and hope that this has been a blessing to you. It is our prayer and hope that this will transform the way you relate with your finances, that you will start having a healthy relationship with your finances as you order your finances. Please let us know in what ways this conversation has been useful to you. 20316 is our SMS line. 0786316316 is our WhatsApp line. Kindly do join us again next week for another engaging conversation. But for now, this is goodbye from us. But please do not switch off, because we have other programs lined up for you, including Praise the Lord that is coming right up. See you next week.